All right, here's some really creepy ghost stories that I have on the Nolichucky River in East Tennessee. Man, this is the greatest place that I've ever spent my life. Growing up fishing, canoeing, and boating, and hunting, and camping, and just doing all the recreational activities of life growing up as a kid. Wonderful place. But the very name Nolichucky, when I grew up, everybody told me that means bloody waters in Cherokee language. It also can mean rushing waters or death waters because so many people die there all the time. And the Native Americans took their people a lot of times along that river areas on islands and places and buried them in mounds and places like that along it, and considered it a very spiritual river, but a really great place to visit, and also a lot of history, not just with the Native Americans, but there was a lot of Hernando de Soto, the Spanish explorers, actually came through there in the I say around 1400s and explored that river looking, for gold and silver, and didn't end up finding it. But the river pretty much starts in North Carolina and then comes down through East Tennessee. And in that area, it's got some really rushing waters in there. A lot of people do die there because they get caught up in the rapids because it's white water there, and then it kind of smooths out a little bit down through the valley, but it's still got a lot of rocks and cave-like topography and cliffs and all kinds of weird stuff around it. It really looks cool, but when the water gets up, a lot of people die because a lot of times that river doesn't have a dam on it. It does have a dam, historical dam in Greenville in the 1700s, but that dam has since been shut down. It doesn't work anymore since I could wear. So every year people die in this river from flash floods because it comes down there and gets them stuck on islands, and just people die from swimming and because they underestimate. But a lot of death on that. But there's been a lot of other things happen in the history of this place, and also the rumors of Sokola, which is a Cherokee legend of the giant that protected all the lands. Roamed around this place as well down there, and you can see a story about that in my other video called the Jubicala Rock, where he actually supposedly put his hand on, and there's a handprint of the giant on that rock. And I'll tell more about the story than that. But with that being said, though, let's get on with the stories. All right. The first story is a story that I've often been told by all the old timers down here that lived here years, in the past, that grew up here before I ever got there as a kid. And this is a section of area down here where there used to be a bridge or a ford, and a road called East Stagecoach Road used to come through here. And there's also a blacksmith shop down there. The old foundation of the fireplace is still there. But the story goes that, there was particularly one time, they used to have families and wagon trains and things come across here, and then one night they were trying to get across the river, and it was a little higher than normal, and the man was trying to pull things over and guide the stagecoach and all that across and get it over. When it flipped over, it fell over and went into the water, and it had his family in it, and they all drowned. They went down through the rapids, and they were screaming and hollering, and there's nothing he could have done to save them. That's one story that I heard that had happened down here. The other stories go that in these rock ledges down here, and I've seen this, and I've actually seen this happen before, but people didn't go down in it. But the old timers told me that there was people actually going down the river, and they hit these ledges and went underneath the rocks, never to be found again. And also, when there's other stories of where people were swimming down here and drowned, and then they never found them as well. Now that has happened for real, I know of, but just a lot of these stories. But at night, when you're sitting out here camped out, I guarantee, because I've been there many nights, you can hear, if you listen, you can still hear the screams of people in the water. Even sometimes like screams in the Shoals. It comes out and you can hear it. It's really clear now. There might be some bobcats up there screaming. It's too, but it's really spooky when you're there at night and you hear the Shoals, because you can hear it, the Shoals, and you can hear screams and people. It seems like they're coming down the river, hollering out. Very spooky if you're down there at night. All right, as if the ghost of people who've drowned in that river weren't enough, this is a really creepy story that happened for real to my wife and I. It was one day in the middle of the summer. We were going fishing down here, and there's a little sluice area, a little rocky area on one side of this big island. You walk across that, and as we were walking down through there, we were going to look for some hellgrammites. These are bait that I find under the rocks a lot of times, and this one sectional area has some really big rocks, and a lot of times we find a whole bunch of them in there. But the one thing we noticed when we got down there is it stunk real bad. I mean, it was stinking. I've been around a lot of stink before, but this was about as worse as if you had a dead cow down there that's totally decomposing, and that's so stinky you can't even stand around that type of stench. And this had the same type of stench, but I couldn't see what it was. And as I went around those rocks, I kind of looked around, and it was just kind of too bad. I thought, man, I'm not going to hang around this place. It stinks too bad. And so the rocks are dry anyway. There's probably no hellgrammites here anyway. So we'll have to go in the water and seine them and get them, because it's too dried up. It's been too dry too long. A lot of times they crawl out toward the water if it gets too dry. As we walked down through there, my wife's like holding her nose. I'm holding mine, like, man, that's pretty bad. And I said, it's got to be a cow. I said, that's a big dead animal. That's not just a little one. That's a cow or something around here that's floated down the river and got stuck down here. So we went fishing that day, and then we again held our noses but didn't see anything. And then we went home. A couple weeks later, we got a call from one of the family members saying that they'd went down there and their child or their kid was in the same area in the rocks hunting for these shells, these mussel shells, and came upon a body. Yeah, there was a decomposing body laying on the bank right there beside the rocks that I was messing around in. It was kind of back in the green, so I didn't really see it, but I could smell it. That's the worst smell that you don't ever really want to walk upon right there. But yeah, it was a dead body. And for a kid, you might say, and I'm glad I didn't actually see it, to be honest with you, because it had been decomposed, they said, been eaten by animals and still, kind of ghoulish looking with bones laying around and things like that. So the police department came down there and did an investigation. Because it's decomposed, they couldn't figure out what happened, because, there was no foul play. They said, oh, there's a cliff up there. Hey, he probably fell off a cliff. And, they put police tape around it, investigated, and then put in the paper that that's probably what happened. Either his medical condition or he fell off a cliff, because they didn't really know, and left it at that. And they didn't even call us, the owners of the land down there, which was kind of crazy. But, right after that, I did find some members around there that said they actually had known the person and that they were kin to him, and that the person had been in jail or prison or something, and they were on parole. Of course, they were in violation of parole because they were dead on the bank. So something fishy there, you might say, that they'd be laying down there on the bank. With that being said, and that when they went down there to go look where he was at, there was still bones in the ground. They didn't pick all the police and the people that came to investigate. They didn't pick all the body parts up. They said they had to go. They did a bad job on that. They didn't pick all the body parts up, and it was kind of really creepy. But now that body, that was found down there where we go all the time fishing and hunting. It's rumored, this guy is hanging through the woods there. We can see. You think we see ghosts, or and the thing is, what happened to this guy? He's kind of going around. We still think, saying, "Hey, I want to let y'all know what really happened," because we don't really know. And you can even hear he might have fell off a cliff. And sometimes we think we hear somebody hollering, like they're falling, but it's really creepy that this ghost definitely hangs down there because I think he still wants to tell his story. Very creepy, but really happened. Okay, so the last story is about something that happened to me one night while we were camped out there. Me and my brother-in-law went down there and had a really good day. We go out there and we fish, either boat or walk around and fish, and then we come back on this little, what we call the beach area, and where we have our tents at and big bonfire and, cook our food. And you can actually lazy fish there and catch catfish at night. It's pretty cool. And we were at late that night, and I thought, I'm going to stay up and try to catch some catfish. My brother-in-law, he wanted to go ahead and go to bed, so he went to sleep. And then as I was out there fishing, now you hear all kinds of sounds down there. Like I said, there's screams or hollers or weird things you hear, and and frogs are down there and all kinds of other different things you normally hear. But I heard something crackling through the woods. This wasn't just like a little stick. It was like something big was coming through the daggone woods, huge. I thought, what the heck is that? It almost sounds like a car driving through the woods. And it was dark. So I went over there to try to find what it was and looked. I didn't have a good flashlight, but I could just hear it crashing and crumbling. And I said, hey, is somebody there? Because I thought, maybe somebody's there. Maybe it's a cow got lost, because that's something big. Couldn't figure out what it was. So it kept coming through, and I thought, well, maybe it'll go away. And it just kept seeming like it's about getting closer. As I went down the path and tried to find it, I said, what the heck is it? So I had a pistol with me, and I didn't want to shoot at it just in blank anywhere. I wouldn't do that, but I thought, well, maybe if I shoot up in the air, it'll scare it off. So I just shot up in the air and tried to scare it off. And then that's when my brother-in-law came out of that tent. Now, he was a Vietnam veteran. He goes, what the heck's going on there? What is it? And I said, just calm down, man. It's me. There's something out here in the woods. It's crackling through the woods. He goes, oh, okay, I ain't worried about that. And he went back to bed. And then the morning we got up, because, this thing was out there all night making these cracking noises. And it's like big, huge cracking noise. We got up the next day, went up the path to go fishing on the north side of the island, and there's just all kinds of weird looking poop all over the place. It didn't look like, it wasn't cow poop or anything like that. And I don't know if it's bear or not. It could have been a bear, but usually bears don't go slow like that through the woods. They kind of pitter patter and they run. They on all 4 feet and don't hang around if you've ever saw a bear. But it could have been a bear, but I don't think so. We call it the Nolichucky beast because we've heard of places down there. We see scratches on a bunch of trees where it looks like it's scratched, gouged trees out, and been around through the woods living, and we totally believe that whatever it is, it only comes out at night. It doesn't come around the day. We never saw anything, but we've definitely heard these loud noises and this crumbling, cracking through the woods. It's not even like what you see on TV. I can't explain the noise it does, but it's definitely creepy that this really happened. There was something out there, and to this day, we still go down there. We kind of make sure that we got a big bonfire, watch around, make sure whatever this beast is, it doesn't come and get us. But that's a real story, very spooky.